Crude oil contains millions of compounds, and it's nearly impossible to quantify the exact composition of each compound in the crude oil. However, the properties of the crude oil are essential for designing and operating a refinery. Oil producers, refiners, and third-party organizations typically run a variety of lab analyses and tests on each new crude oil feedstock to determine some of its essential properties. The collection of these tests is called an assay. To begin an assay, various tests are run on the sample. The sample is batch distilled to completion following a standard procedure such as ASTM D2892 to produce a TBP distillation curve. The distillate that comes over between the two specific points is called a cut, and several cuts are generally taken for each sample. Each cut is analyzed for properties that are important for petroleum processing, and then all of the data is compiled into the final assay report. Aspen-Heisis Petroleum Refining can use this data to predict how the crude will behave in your refinery, allowing you to make crucial operating and purchasing decisions. As informative as these assays are, they do not provide enough information on their own. Assays are typically not granular enough and may be missing key data points. That's why the assay needs to be characterized in order to be used. Assay characterization is performed using Aspen Assay Management, which is an integrated feature of Aspen-Heisis Petroleum Refining. When you characterize an assay, the data is transformed into property curves, which can be in turn translated into a stream composition and set of stream properties, or property slate, made up of both light components and hypothetical components, or hypos. Each hypo represents all the heavier components that boil over a narrow range, say 10 to 20 degrees Celsius, and the property slate contains the properties associated with each component. Aspen-Heisis Petroleum Refining uses this property slate to carry all of the characterized assay results through the flowsheet. The assay characterization also fills in gaps where there is no data available. If the data is available for a certain temperature range, but missing on other temperature ranges of the crude, Aspen Assay Management fits the available experimental data and interpolates or extrapolates to regions where assay data is not available. For certain properties, if there are no experimental measurements, Aspen Assay Management will perform estimation based on various correlations from the API Technical Data Book and other sources. When characterizing an assay, you can choose to use conventional or molecular characterization. Conventional characterization is based on correlations from literature with AspenTech's proprietary enhancements. It uses data fitting and heuristics to estimate petroleum properties. Molecular characterization is based on algorithms that represent crude oil on a molecular level by taking advantage of modern analytical chemistry measurements such as GCTOF and FT-ICR-MS as inputs. Aspen Assay Management also provides various plots for analyzing and comparing characterization results. Once you characterize an assay, you can plot any of the characterized properties and compare them to data. Aside from the distillation curve, you can plot cut yields, viscosities, or any of the crude properties you selected. With Aspen Assay Management, you can access over 700 assays from Penn Energy Research and from ENI. You can either use them directly or blend them to model the behavior of the feedstock in your refinery. You can also download assays that have been uploaded online by a variety of oil production companies and use them in the simulation. You can also generate your own library of assays.